Hey everybody, and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady, and today I will be discussing tips and tricks for the Charge and Fight phase part 2. So let's dive right in. So, I want to correct what I did in the first video, which was I taught you guys how to pile in wrong. So let's go and start with that first off. So in the other video, I said you have to pile in towards the nearest enemy unit, but that was not correct. It's the nearest enemy model. So just to quickly fix it, if this guy's right here, when he piles in, he has to end closer to this model. So you can go like this, and as long as that little space in between them is closer. So again, if he started right here, if you measure, he's probably like half an inch away. Yep, exactly half an inch. So now every time I want to pile him in, he just has to end his movement closer than that. He can end 0.4, and then he can end whatever, but also because he's got 3 inches, I can put him all the way around here, and as long as he gets closer and ends his move closer, that is a proper pile-in. So everything I taught in that last video is still relevant, only change the word from unit to model, and then everything still works the same. If you have multiple units where you want to tie up this unit after you charge this one, then you go like this, and then when you pile in, it's the same thing. You'll pile in over here. You'll still get closer to this guy, but now you piled into this unit as well. So again, I'm sorry I was mistaken on that, but it was corrected in the comments, and I did pin it. So you guys might have already saw it, but if not, I am correcting it now. It's when you pile in or consolidate, it's towards the nearest enemy model, not the unit. So now with that said, let's move on to the next part of this small tutorial. Okay, so let's pretend this Karn the Betrayer is just a regular Chaos Lord, or maybe Karn the Betrayer allows these guys to reroll something. I don't know exactly. I've never used Karn the Betrayer, so I don't know if he does allow them to reroll. But let's just pretend, in case he doesn't, let's just pretend this is a model that lets these guys reroll stuff when they're within 6 inches of them. Like a normal captain from Space Marines or a Chaos Lord or anything like that. These guys are going to try to charge these guys. So the Tactical Marines, of course, get their Overwatch depending on how far they are. So some of them might be in rapid fire range, some of them might not be. That guy's in rapid fire range, so they're all in rapid fire range. They'll get to do whatever. Now you charge. So let's grab some dice. And make the charge. I have 6 inches, so let's see. That will get us within an inch. Or wait, nope, maybe not. Nope, it won't get us within an inch. So I'll use a command point. Oh my god, there. Finally just got in. So this guy will just barely get in. He'll be within an inch, but you don't want to put him in base because you always want to be able to pile in. As soon as your guy goes in base, you can't pile in anymore. But here's a nifty little trick we're going to do, okay? So this guy's going to go right here. This one's going to go right there. And this guy is going to go right here. Because in this edition, when you're finishing your charge move, the only stipulation is that one model has to end its movement within an inch. So you can essentially move your guys in any direction you want. You can go this way, you can go that way, you can go this way. So because I want to stay in my 6 inch, oh, so this guy's actually too far. Go like that, go like that. I can daisy chain my guys or conga line them to keep one of them within 6 inches. So now the rest of them get that buff. Then when we go into pile in, these guys I can choose to pile in if I want to, and then I can choose to not pile in him in if I don't want to. Now this is going to cause something weird where he's going to be stuck. There'll probably be closer enemy models where he can't pile in because he has to go closer to the enemy models. So he's going to be stuck here. But you get your rerolls and stuff, and then eventually once everything dies, so say if you kill all the tacticals, then these guys on their next move can try to rejoin their buddy, or if after you attack and you kill pretty much everything and one guy goes left and they swing and get lucky, you can just kill this guy off because he has no use anyways, and then you can attack them after to kill the 1 or 2 guys that are left, like on their turn or on the next turn, or whatever it happens to be. But yep, you can daisy chain guys like this. It works for getting buffs, or if there's an objective, like if this is objective 5 and you need capture objective 5 at the end of the turn, but you want your guys to go in and smack some face, then you can do this. Just daisy chain your guys and don't pile in the one that you don't need, that doesn't need to, and that way you can get your points. Alright, so moving on. Next thing I'd like to talk about is what I like to call the Helldrake technique. which is when you find something that's really fast. You can do this with bikes, you can do it with very fast vehicles, you can do it with, well, a Helldrake I think is the only flyer that can actually charge. So that's why I call it the Helldrake thing, because if you use 3 of these in a game, you can do this, and it really pisses off your opponent, which I discovered yesterday, actually. So you take your Helldrake, beautiful looking model, I love the Helldrake, it's amazing. Anyways, things like this move 30 inches. So you'll find something on the enemy team that you do not want to shoot for the rest of the game. So in this case, a Land Raider. It has 2 heavy bolters and 4 las cannons on it. So of course you don't want this thing shooting, because it could one-shot your Helldrake if it rolls well and you roll bad. So you put your Helldrake an inch away. Then in Overwatch it will most likely not do any damage. It might get a lucky las cannon off or a heavy bolter, but for the most part it's not going to one-shot you unless they get super lucky in Overwatch. Then when it comes to taking the Overwatch, you charge, you get in, and then sure, you're not going to do that much damage, but this thing is going to be useless, because then on their turn, sure, they can back up, but guess what? The Helldrake's just going to go and do this again. And it's what Steve from Warhammer, or Steve from Mini Wargaming calls bumper cars. You just basically keep running into the car and stopping it from shooting. So you can pick a very cheap unit, or in this case a unit that's around 180 points, something like that, and you can stop a unit that's like 400 points from firing for the rest of the game. You just gotta keep charging into it. This isn't a great idea with stuff like charging into a Defiler or something that can actually fight back. This is only works when you're charging against tanks like this, or like Bane Blades from Astra Militarum, like any kind of tank. No, don't charge into a demonic vehicle. Just tanks and stuff. Tanks are fine to charge into, stop them from shooting. Even infantry, you can charge some Havocs or Devastators. You might not kill them all, but hey, they're not going to be shooting for the rest of the time. And another thing is too, is every time you charge this thing, you'll charge, it'll back off, then on your turn you move an inch away and you can start flaming some other stuff, chip off some units here and there, while still accomplishing your goal of stopping this from shooting. So that's what I like to call the Helldrake technique. It is basically just taking a cheap unit that isn't going to die very easily and running it into tanks so that they can't shoot. If your opponent's smart, they'll have a bubble wrap in front of all of their stuff. Moving on, we're going on to Heroic Interventions. You all probably know about this rule. It's a very basic rule. It's a rule that whenever your opponent finishes their charge moves, you can pile in with Karn the Betrayer. In this case, we're going to have some very brave Tactical Marines charging these Khorne Berserkers. So I have piled them in a certain way. I'm going to go like this, so that these guys will not be able to walk through these little bits, and if they want to charge this guy, they got to go around. So let's say they bravely charged the Berserkers and went right here. Now, as long as this guy is within 3 inches, you can go like this, do your 3-inch movement. That's a little bit far. But now look, because of this little space here, I'm probably within an inch. Ding! I'm now in combat with them. And because unless they declare to charge against me, they cannot swing on this guy. But I can swing on them. So that's how that could work. Heroic Interventions are really good, and they're very sneaky if your opponent isn't looking out for it. And you can do stuff like this where your opponent doesn't think you'll get close enough, but because they might be dumb enough to put their guy close enough, you just auto get a free in right there. You don't even have to go around sideways. So, based off of the way I read the Heroic Intervention rule, there's a couple other cool things you can do too. You can essentially charge on their turn even if they don't make any charges. If your character for some reason ends here, at the end of their charge phase, after they've finished all their charge moves, even if they haven't made a single one, you still get to pile in 3 inches towards the nearest enemy, and that can bring you 1 inch into combat with units that aren't even in close combat. So for example, we can say this guy for some reason, say he killed some Tactical Marines which are right here, and he consolidated over here, right? Now it's the Space Marines' turn. They go, they shoot, they happen to not kill this guy. So now, at the end of their charge phase, which is a mandatory phase they have to take, even if nobody charges, they're still in that phase. Once they're done, their charge moves, even if they make none, because if they make none, they're done obviously, you get to do a Heroic Intervention where you move a character 3 inches towards the nearest enemy model. And that can bring you within an inch, essentially meaning you can charge on your opponent's turn by doing this. And again, the cool thing about this is you can do it without them having to have charged anything. That's a big misconception that a lot of people think, is that your opponent has to have charged something and you have to heroically intervene on that unit. It does not say that in the book at all. Heroic intervention. It states, after the enemy has completed all of their charge moves, any of your characters that are within 3 inches of an enemy unit may perform a heroic intervention. Any that do so can move 3 inches so long as they end their move closer to the nearest enemy model. Oh, I believe this also means that you could just do it to move, essentially get a free 3-inch movement in every one of your opponent's charge phases. It kind of sounds stupid, but with the way it's worded, unless they have something in the FAQ that I didn't notice that fixes that, then you can essentially just move your characters an extra 3 movement at the end of your opponent's charge phase once they're done all their charges. It doesn't say you have to end within an inch of an enemy unit. So you can just do it to keep moving your guys if maybe you're close combat and you want to keep getting closer to the enemies to make your charge easier. You can do that every time. Or you can pull units into combat that weren't in combat, even if they didn't make any charges, because they are still in the charge phase at some point and they still have to end it. You gotta think of it as like a video game where you declare, I'm in my movement phase, then once you're done, I'm in my shooting phase. You even have to declare your psychic phase, even if you have no psychers. You say, I'm beginning my psychic phase, I'm ending my psychic phase. You don't just skip the phase because you don't have something that does that. It still happens. You just have to declare that nothing's happening and that it's over. You're just going through it very quickly. So it's the same with the charge phase. Even if you're not charging anything, your opponent can still move their guys at the end of your charge phase, and vice versa. You can do it during their charge phase. It only works on characters, but I can see this actually being very useful. That's going to be it for today and our tips and tricks part 2. This video is not as long as my usual videos, but to be honest, there's not very many more tips and tricks in close combat that I can think of to tell you guys. If I figure any more out, I'll have a part 3, but as of right now, this is all I can think of. If you have any suggestions for a future video, please leave them down in the comments below. I always love suggestions because it's hard to come up with ideas on my own, especially after doing this for a couple of weeks now. I'm already starting to slowly run out of ideas, so any help would be appreciated. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to know, I think I'm going to do a video about how to do deployment properly, what to look for in deployment, how to do proper unit prioritization when shooting or charging, and I still want to make a video about how to pick the army based off of, or how to pick an army to play based off your place. Well, anyways, that's it. I hope I taught you guys something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. Happy wargaming.